and welcome to BrittanyRest.com, a place of encouragement for the world-weary believer. Today I'm really excited to share with you in this short video devotional the idea of Here I Am, responding when God calls your name. And this all started for me when I was reading about Ananias in the New Testament. And God called his name. God said Ananias, and Ananias responded, Here I am. Such beautiful words. Here I am. And when I read that, I thought, man, this sounds really familiar. Like, I feel like I've read this before. And so I started digging through scripture, and I found 6 men in the Bible who, when God said their name, they said the exact same phrase, Here I am. And I was floored as I began to study these men and just what they had gone through leading up to that moment, the trials and the tribulations and the failures and trying to listen to God and follow God and maybe messing up or getting it right sometimes and drawing closer. And it was this crazy, unique, fun, interesting, but challenging seasons and journey that they walked up to those moments where they said, Here I am. And as a result of their Here I Am, God did incredible things in them and through them. And what really stood out was this just sureness of God and this trust in God and how they were willing to step out in faith and obedience immediately when God called their name. And I thought, I want to be that kind of person. I want to be someone who, when God says my name, I immediately say, Here I am, Lord. Use me how you want to use me. I want to be faithful and obedient to your call and to your purpose on my life. And I hope that's your desire. And I would think that it probably is, that you want to be someone that when God says your name, you want to be faithful and obedient, that you want to be found to be a faithful and obedient follower of Christ. And so today we're just going to talk about that for a few minutes, what it looks like to have a Here I Am heart and spirit. I will say right off the bat, because this is something that I discovered in my study of these men, is that they all messed up leading up to that definitive moment where they said, Here I am. So these were ordinary men who made mistakes. They were trying to be faithful. They were trying to follow God. Sometimes they went and did their own thing because they thought it was better, right? So just real quick, those 6 men are Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Samuel, Isaiah, and Ananias. And all are in the Old Testament except for Ananias. And each man, as they were, walking out their calling and their purpose, made mistakes. They chose to go their own way at times. They were, sort of rebellious and try to do things in their own way. But in those failures, in the ups and downs, they really learned how to tune into God's voice and to really decipher, to really set God's voice apart from all the other distractions in this world. Because the truth is, there's a spiritual battle raging all around you every single day, and you can't see it. But if you were to see it, you would be amazed at just how much distraction there is going on all around you. There are many distractions fighting for your attention. There's the world and the culture that we live in. There's so much being thrown at us about pride and power and money and lust, and there's comparison and doubt beckoning for our attention. People are speaking negatively into our lives. The enemy, our own insecurities and doubts, and there's just so much going on all around us that it can be so loud and so distracting that we can, if we're not really being intentional about tuning into the voice of God, we can miss his voice, right? When Elijah went to the mountain, there was the earthquake, there was the wind, and there was the fire, but Elijah did not find God in any of those very obvious these obvious acts that some might think God might be in. No, God came in the very gentle whisper after all of those distractions. And that's the kind of world we're living in, where there's just so much loud distraction going on around you that sometimes it can be hard to tune into his voice and hear his gentle whisper. But we have to be able to do that if we want to be someone who can hear his voice and then step out and fulfill the purpose and calling on our life. And I know that's you. I know that's your heart. You probably have dreams. You have desires. You want to believe that there's more to life. You want to believe that there's a calling on your life, but what does that look like? How do you discover that? It all starts with first tuning into His voice. And once you've been able to do that, then you can step out when God calls your name. And the thing about that is, it takes practice. Like you have to, if you believe God is speaking to you, step out. There's going to be some fear and some doubts and insecurities that are going to want to hold you back, but you can't do that. So step out, and maybe it is God, and that's going to be awesome, and you're going to so learn from that experience. But you're also going to learn that maybe it's not, and you're going to have to sort of like tweak, your ear, refine your ear a little bit. But it takes stepping out, and it takes tuning into God's voice. And the best way to do that is through reading the Bible and prayer. But these men, it's incredible what God did with their Here I Am. With Abraham, it was this, his was a Here I Am of sacrifice. But in that sacrifice, he established a legacy for him and for the nation of Israel and for all believers through that one simple act of obedience. With Jacob, it was a Here I Am of reconciliation that brought generational healing, not once, but twice to his family. Each man experienced through their Here I Am this incredible promise and reward. And what I want to do is I want to share that with you, and I want to share with you how you can tune into the voice of God. There's so much to this that I can't give it all away in a video, but if this has even sparked in you just a little bit of curiosity about, Brittany, I do want to know how to tune into God's voice. How do I decipher His voice from all the other voices in this world? How do I, tune out everything else just so I hear His voice? Or maybe you're saying, Brittany, I do want to step out. I'm waiting for God, and what do I do in the meantime? All of these questions, all of these desires that you have, I've actually addressed in a book that I wrote. It's called Here I Am, Responding When God Calls Your Name. And this is going to help you to step confidently into your calling. And not only that, but to first and foremost be able to tune into God's voice so you can do that. And it comes out June 4th. You can pre-order it now and get lots of free goodies. Maybe you're watching this after June 4th. That's okay. You can still get it. It's sold everywhere books are sold, or you can grab it at my website, BrittanyRest.com. But I so believe in this resource and the message that God wants to spark this fire in you to walk out your calling in confidence, to step out in faith and obedience. And so if that sounds anything like you, which I will tell you, this journey that I've been on has so radically changed my walk with God. And I really believe that He wants to do the same in your life. And so I would encourage you to go pick it up. But yeah, these are incredible stories that are going to walk you through the just reward and blessing and favor of a Here I Am heart and spirit. And I just want to leave you with the very first Here I Am in Scripture. And it's with Abraham in Genesis 22, verse 1. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. Abraham responded with, Here I am. And that's just one of many Here I Ams. And in an interesting turn of events, there's one phrase in Scripture where God says it. In the book of Isaiah, when God's name is called, God says, Here I am. And then it's this incredible picture of God being right there ready to respond. And so if you're in a place where you're really looking for God to work in your life and meet some critical needs and to show up, this is a beautiful promise for you in the book of Isaiah. And so we break that down to what God's Here I Am looks like for your life. I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you will go pick up a copy of Here I Am, Responding When God Calls Your Name. I truly believe it's going to impact your life. God is He is so good, and He is so faithful, and you're going to see that in these stories. As God has been writing these stories of these men, He's writing my story, He's writing your story, and God is a good, good Father, and you will see that, and you will be encouraged. Also, don't forget that you can contribute on a monthly basis at Patreon /Brittany Rest, and that just helps to go to support the ministry. And so if that's something that is on your heart, I hope that you'll go visit it. You get some sweet little perks if you do. And I just really appreciate you. I'm praying for you, and I hope that you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye.